Right now, there is a housing market divide happening across the UK that nobody wants to talk about. If you own property in the wrong postcode, you could be watching tens of thousands of pounds just evaporate from your home's value while you sleep. We have identified 12 specific areas where house prices are not just falling, they are dropping faster than they have in years, with some places seeing double-digit % declines in just 12 months. And the crazy part? Most homeowners in these areas still do not realize how bad things have gotten. Whether you are thinking about selling, considering buying, or just trying to understand what is really happening in the UK property market, what I am about to show you is going to change everything, because these are not random fluctuations. These are warning signs of a complete market restructuring that is already underway. But first, make sure to subscribe to UK Dream, because we are bringing you the real story behind the headlines that everyone else is missing. Let's start with the absolute carnage happening in Westminster. This is home to some of the most expensive property in the entire country, and prices have absolutely cratered, falling 14.4% in the year to September 2025. We're talking about nearly £160,000 wiped off the average property value in just 12 months. The average house price fell from £1,086,000 in August 2024 to just £921,000 by August 2025. Think about that for a second. If you owned a property worth over £1 million, you've just lost the equivalent of a decent flat in many other parts of the country. Here's what's really driving this collapse. Westminster has always relied heavily on international buyers, particularly from China, Russia, and the Middle East. These buyers loved the tax advantages that came with non-domiciled status. But recent tax reforms have completely gutted those benefits. The appeal of London's luxury market for international capital has basically disappeared overnight. Then you pile on the budget uncertainty around Labour's property taxation plans. Wealthy buyers are sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what hits them next. Will there be higher stamp duty, mansion taxes, council tax reforms? Nobody knows, so nobody is buying. And when you are trying to sell a £1.5 million property in Westminster right now, you are competing against dozens of other desperate sellers who are all racing to get out before prices fall even further. It is a fire sale, and buyers know it. That is why properties are sitting on the market for 45 days on average in London, which is 20% slower than last year. Right next door, Kensington and Chelsea is experiencing its own property bloodbath. Prices have dropped 11.3% in the year to September 2025, falling from £1,408,000 to £1,249,000. That is nearly £160,000 gone in 12 months. This area is supposed to be one of the most exclusive, desirable postcodes in the entire world. South Kensington, Notting Hill, and Chelsea are not supposed to be places where property values collapse. But that is exactly what is happening. A huge chunk of properties in this borough are owned by buy-to-let investors and second homeowners, and those groups are exiting the market in droves. Landlords who bought years ago with cheap mortgages are now facing refinancing at 5% or higher. The rental yields in prime central London are barely hitting 5% gross. After you factor in maintenance, void periods, letting agent fees, and everything else, you are looking at maybe 2 to 3% net return. Why bother with all that hassle when you could just sell, take your money, and invest it literally anywhere else for better returns? Prime central London values are now sitting over 22% below their 2014 peak. That is more than a decade of zero appreciation before you even factor in inflation. Now let us head to Wales, because what is happening in Ceredigion is absolutely fascinating. and it is a warning sign for other second home hotspots across the UK. Ceredigion saw the steepest house price decline in the entire UK in early 2025, with prices dropping 6.96% from December 2024 to April 2025 alone. By July, annual price declines were sitting at 6.8%, bringing the average property value down to £218,000. This is a coastal county that became incredibly popular during the pandemic. City dwellers flooded in, buying holiday homes and second properties. Prices exploded during 2020 and 2021. But now, the bill has come due. In April 2025, Ceredigion introduced a 150% council tax premium on second homes. Yes, you heard that right. If you own a second home in Ceredigion, your council tax bill increased by 150%. For a lot of second homeowners, that was the final straw. They are listing their properties and getting out. This is not just happening in Ceredigion. This is a template that other councils across the UK are following. Places like Cornwall, the Lake District, and the Scottish Highlands are watching this closely. When you suddenly have hundreds of second homeowners all trying to sell at the same time in a relatively small market, prices crater. There simply are not enough local buyers with the income to absorb all that supply. What is wild is that while house prices are collapsing, rents are actually going up by 6.3% year on year. So you have this bizarre situation where it is simultaneously getting cheaper to buy, but more expensive to rent. The Wirral in Merseyside has seen prices drop 5.4% to £294,250. This is a big deal because the Wirral has traditionally been seen as solid and stable. It is close to Liverpool, it has decent transport links and good schools. So why are prices falling? Simple. Affordability has completely broken down. The Wirral saw rapid price growth during the pandemic as people fled city centres looking for more space. But that growth was not supported by corresponding wage increases. Now, with mortgage rates at 5% or higher, monthly payments have become completely unaffordable for most local buyers. Here is the math that tells you everything. If you bought a house for £310,000 at the peak, with a £280,000 mortgage at 2%, your monthly payments were around £1,050. Manageable. But if you are trying to buy that same property today at £294,000 with a mortgage at 5%, even though the price has technically fallen, your monthly payment is now around £1,540. That is nearly £500 more per month. For families where the average household income is around £30,000 to £35,000, that difference is the line between affordable and impossible. So even though prices have fallen, demand has collapsed even faster. Huddersfield was actually one of the biggest growth areas in 2023, with prices jumping 8.7% that year. But in 2024, everything reversed, and prices have now fallen 6.6%. Huddersfield got caught in a classic boom-bust cycle. During 2023, buyers flooded in because it looked like incredible value compared to Manchester and Leeds. You could buy a 3-bedroom house for under £200,000, and it is only 20 minutes by train to Manchester. Except everyone had the same idea at the same time. Demand surged, prices shot up, and suddenly Huddersfield did not look like such amazing value anymore. Then mortgage rates started climbing, and buyers who might have stretched to buy at elevated prices suddenly could not get mortgage approval anymore. Now you have a market that is completely stalled. Sellers who bought at the peak in 2023 are stuck. They cannot sell without taking a loss, but they also cannot afford to hold on if they have been hit with higher mortgage rates. The property types getting hit hardest are the new build estates on the outskirts. Developers charged a premium during the boom, often 10 to 15% above what comparable resale properties were worth. If you bought a new build in Huddersfield in early 2023 using Help to Buy, there is a decent chance you are now sitting in negative equity. Ealing led the decline among London boroughs in 2024, with prices dropping 4.9%. This is significant because Ealing has always been seen as one of London's more affordable, family-friendly areas. The average house price currently sits around £537,000. That might sound relatively affordable for London, but here is the problem. The median household income in Ealing is around £45,000. With a £537,000 house, even if you somehow saved a 10% deposit of £53,700, you would need a mortgage of £483,300. At current rates of around 5%, that means monthly payments of approximately £2,670 a month. On a £45,000 income, that is simply impossible to get approved for, even with two incomes. Local buyers are getting completely priced out. Sellers are having to drop their asking prices by an average of £14,100 just to get any interest. And here is the kicker. The Elizabeth line actually hurt Ealing. When it opened, it made commuting from much further west much more viable. Places like Maidenhead, Slough, and Reading suddenly became genuine London commuter towns, and those places are significantly cheaper. So instead of buyers paying £537,000 for a house in Ealing, they are paying £450,000 for a bigger house in Reading and still getting into central London in under an hour. Ealing is losing its competitive advantage. The City of London has seen absolutely catastrophic declines. Since 2018, house prices have fallen by 36%. Let me say that again, 36%. The city has been hammered by the shift to remote and hybrid working. Before the pandemic, living in the city made sense for high-earning professionals who wanted to be walking distance from their office. You would pay a premium for a small flat, but you would save hours of commuting time every week. Now, those same professionals are only going into the office 2 to 3 days a week, and many have moved further out to places where they can get more space for their money. Why pay £800,000 for a one-bedroom flat in the city when you can pay the same amount for a 3-bedroom house in Hertfordshire or Essex and still get into the office when you need to? The city feels dead on evenings and weekends because it is so office-focused, and that is killing demand. Southwark has seen prices fall 3%. With the average property now around £517,634. This is significant because Southwark has been one of the more resilient London boroughs, thanks to massive regeneration around London Bridge and Elephant and Castle. But even with all that investment, prices are now declining. The reason? Oversupply. Developers built thousands of new flats in Southwark over the past decade. Many were bought by investors who planned to rent them out or flip them. Now those investors are trying to exit. When you have hundreds of near-identical flats in the same development all hitting the market at once, prices get crushed. Buyers know they have power. They can lowball offers, walk away, and come back in 3 months, knowing the seller will be even more desperate. First-time buyers who bought new builds in 2020 or 2021 using Help to Buy are now finding their properties are worth less than they paid. A 2-bedroom flat that cost £450,000 brand new in 2021 might now only be worth £420,000 on the resale market. Camden has seen prices fall 4.7% to around £895,595. This is surprising, because Camden has always been seen as one of the coolest, most desirable parts of London. So what is happening? Camden is getting squeezed from multiple directions. First, it is expensive but not exclusive. At £895,000 for an average property, you are paying serious money, but you are not getting the prestige of Kensington or Westminster. Second, Camden has a significant proportion of older housing stock that needs work. Many properties are Victorian or Edwardian conversions. They look charming, but they are expensive to maintain and not energy efficient. With the government pushing hard on energy efficiency standards, landlords in Camden are panicking. Retrofitting a Victorian conversion to meet modern standards can easily cost £30,000 to £50,000 per flat. A lot of landlords are deciding it is not worth it and selling up. The shift to hybrid working has hit Camden particularly hard. If you are only going into the office twice a week, suddenly living in Hertfordshire or even Milton Keynes starts to make sense. What is interesting is that rental demand in Camden is still quite strong, but buying demand has collapsed. That disconnect tells you everything. People want to live in Camden, they just do not want to buy there at current prices. Hammersmith and Fulham has seen prices drop 3%, with the average property now worth £764,097. This area got absolutely overbuilt during the 2000 teens. Developers threw up tower after tower of new flats, particularly around White City and Shepherd's Bush. A lot of these were marketed to international investors who saw London property as a safe place to park money. Now those investors want out, and they are all trying to sell at the same time. When you walk around areas like White City, you see for sale signs everywhere. Many of these newer developments have turned out to have serious quality issues. Cladding problems, building safety concerns, high service charges that keep rising, and shoddy construction that is all already falling apart after less than 10 years. Buyers are becoming much more cautious, and that's crushing demand. For sellers right now, it is brutal. You are competing against dozens of other sellers in the same building, all trying to offload flats that look basically identical. The entire southeast of England region has seen price growth completely stall. Some months show outright declines of 0.4%. This is significant because the southeast has been one of the engines of UK house price growth for decades. Affordability has completely broken across the entire region. The house price to income ratio is now around 10 to 12 in many areas. That means you would need 10 to 12 times your annual salary to buy the average property. Even with the most generous mortgage lending, that is just not possible for the vast majority of people. Supply across the southeast has shot up by 19% compared to last year. That is a massive increase. But transactions are down 28% year on year. So you have many sellers listing properties, but buyers just are not there at the prices sellers want. That is a recipe for further price declines. The landlord exodus is particularly brutal in the southeast. Landlords are selling up in droves, and all those properties hitting the market at once are adding to the supply glut. The east of England has seen sales agreed drop by 6% compared to last year. This region includes Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, Hertfordshire, and Cambridgeshire. All of these areas saw massive price increases during the pandemic as people fled London looking for more space and cheaper property. Now the music has stopped. Transaction volumes have collapsed in parts of the region. In some rural areas, sales activity is down 40 to 50% compared to 2021. That is not a slowdown. That is a market that is basically frozen solid. Prices went up so fast during the pandemic that they disconnected completely from local wages. A 4-bedroom house in a Norfolk village might now cost £450,000, but the average salary in that area is £28,000. The math just does not work. What you are seeing now is a steady drip of price reductions. Properties that were confidently listed at £500,000 6 months ago are now quietly reduced to £475,000, then £460,000, then £450,000. So what is really driving all of this? The number one driver is mortgage rates. Between 2020 and mid-2022, you could get a mortgage for under 2%. That era is completely over. Today, even the best mortgage deals are sitting at 4.5 to 5%. Higher rates mean buyers can borrow less money. If you could have borrowed £400,000 at 2%, you might only be approved for £300,000 at 5%. That is a massive reduction in buying power. Roughly 800,000 homeowners are coming off fixed-rate deals between now and the end of 2027. Many locked in rates at 2 to 3% back when money was basically free. Now they are facing refinancing at 5% or higher, and for a lot of them, the monthly payments are not affordable anymore. They are being forced to sell, adding to supply and pushing prices down. The second major driver is landlords exiting the market in absolutely massive numbers. Last year, 19% of landlords sold properties, compared to just 8% who bought new ones. Recent surveys show that 41% of landlords are planning to either reduce their portfolios or exit entirely within the next few years. Think about what that means. Nearly half of all landlords are considering selling. That is going to put hundreds of thousands of properties onto the sales market. Landlords are leaving because mortgage rates have more than doubled, killing their yields. The Renters Reform Bill is scrapping Section 21 evictions, making it much harder to remove problematic tenants. Furnished holiday let tax benefits are being stripped away from April 2025. Increased regulation is making being a landlord more expensive and more of a hassle than ever before. Former rental properties now make up 1 in every 5 or 6 listings in some areas. London specifically is dealing with a perfect storm. International buyer demand has collapsed due to tax changes and geopolitical uncertainty. Stamp duty is a massive barrier. The shift to hybrid working means people do not need to live in London anymore. Supply has increased dramatically as landlords and investors try to exit. London has split into 2 markets. Prime central London areas are getting absolutely crushed with double-digit price declines. Meanwhile, more affordable outer London boroughs are holding up better, though even they are starting to show cracks. The London market is also dealing with a crisis of confidence. Brexit uncertainty, political instability, and concerns about Labour tax plans are making buyers and sellers nervous. When people are uncertain, they do not make big financial decisions. So the market freezes and prices drift lower. Then there is the massive north-south divide opening up. While London and the southeast are struggling with falling or flat prices, cities like Manchester, Leeds, and Newcastle are seeing prices rise at 6 to 8% per year. This is not about lifestyle preferences, this is pure economics. A 3-bedroom house in Newcastle costs £180,000. That same house in outer London costs £450,000 or more. Even though salaries are higher in London, they are not high enough to justify mortgage payments that are double or triple what you would pay up north. Buyers are finally waking up to this reality. This regional divide is only going to get more extreme over the next few years. The South is facing a long period of price stagnation or decline. The North is going to continue seeing solid growth. The Help to Buy scheme and Help to Buy distortions from new build developers have created a massive trap for thousands of homeowners. Developers were adding 10 to 15% premiums to new builds because they knew buyers had to use the scheme on new properties. Now, years later, those buyers are discovering their properties have not appreciated. In some cases, they are actually worth less than what they paid. A new build flat bought for £250,000 in 2018 might only be worth £230,000 today. That new build premium has completely evaporated. This is particularly affecting areas where developers built huge numbers of identical new builds all in the same location. New build buyers are trapped. They cannot sell without taking a loss. So where do we go from here? Most analysts are predicting house prices across the UK will rise modestly in 2025, maybe 1 to 3% nationally. But that national average hides massive regional variation. London and the South East might see flat or negative growth. The North and Midlands could see 4 to 6% growth. Longer term, from 2025 through 2029, forecasts are calling for cumulative growth of around 20 to 24%. But that is going to be very unevenly distributed. The theory is that wages will gradually grow, interest rates will gradually decline to around 4%, and confidence will slowly return. But these forecasts assume that nothing goes seriously wrong, and in the current environment, that is a big assumption. Now, let's talk about opportunities, because within every crisis there is always opportunity. If you are a first-time buyer who has been diligently saving and you have stable employment, this is arguably one of the best times in the last 5 years to buy. Yes, mortgage rates are higher, but prices have fallen from their peak, supply has increased dramatically, and you actually have negotiating power. In areas where prices are falling, sellers are getting desperate. Properties that were listed at £300,000 6 months ago are now being quietly reduced to £280,000. That is real money saved. The key is being selective and not overpaying just because you are desperate to get on the ladder. If you are an investor with capital or solid access to finance, this is a genuinely interesting time. The market is repricing in real time, and there are motivated sellers everywhere. The landlords who are exiting are often the ones who are barely breaking even and just hoping for appreciation to bail them out. But there are still deals to be done for professional investors who understand the numbers. Focus on areas with strong fundamentals, cities like Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, places with universities, hospitals, and major employers that create consistent rental demand. Run conservative numbers. Assume mortgage rates stay at 5%. Assume void periods. Assume unexpected maintenance costs. If the deal still works with all those conservative assumptions, it is probably worth pursuing. Buy-to-let mortgage applications actually surged 32% in early 2025. Smart investors are seeing opportunity while everyone else is panicking. If you are a homeowner who is not planning to move soon and your mortgage is affordable, you can basically ignore all this drama. Your property value might dip slightly in the short term, but over the long haul, you will be fine. But if you are coming off a fixed-rate deal in the next 12 to 24 months, you need to act now. Talk to a mortgage broker today. Understand exactly what rates you will qualify for and whether you can afford them. If the numbers genuinely do not work, it might be better to sell now while you still have decent equity rather than waiting until you are forced to sell from a much worse position. What we are witnessing right now across these 12 areas, and really across the entire UK property market, is a fundamental repricing. The cheap money era is over. The days of buying any property anywhere and watching it double in value over 10 years are gone. The new market rewards people who do their homework, understand the numbers, and can spot genuine value where others only see risk. It punishes people who buy emotionally, overpay because they are desperate, or just assume prices always go up. For the 12 areas we have covered today, the outlook is challenging. Some of them, like Westminster and Kensington, might not recover for years. Others, like Huddersfield and the Wirral, might bounce back quicker once mortgage rates stabilise. But across all these areas, the message is the same. The market is telling you something important. Prices are falling in the south while rising in the north. Landlords are exiting en masse. Transactions are down dramatically. Mortgage rates remain elevated. These are not random data points. They are signals. If you can read those signals correctly and understand what they are actually telling you, you can make decisions that put you in a much better position for whatever comes next in this market. The UK property market is not crashing in some dramatic 2008-style collapse, but it is definitely not booming either. It is fundamentally reshaping itself. The question is whether you will be caught on the wrong side of that reshape, or whether you will position yourself to thrive. If this deep dive helped you understand what is really happening in these 12 areas and across the UK property market, make sure you are subscribed to UK Dream so you do not miss our next investigation into the forces reshaping UK property.